Greetings and welcome to our presentation on inventory replenishment. We are pleased you have selected our program to become acquainted on the task of inventory replenishment. There are various ways a purchasing professional is involved in inventory, but understanding the how and the why of the process is critical to the success of planning what to purchase, when to purchase, and in what quantities. When a purchasing organization is determining the type of system to use in order to purchase materials needed to go into the product or process to fulfill customer demand, they have to consider a lot of things. Cost of the material always plays a pivotal role in determining how to manage the purchasing of the product. Secondly, the shelf life and spoilage of the material is important. No company wants to have product in their inventory for long periods of time, so the rate of consumption would be another area of concern. If there is a demand for a material that is very expensive, it would not benefit the organization to have a large amount of the product in inventory and not be consumed. Unused inventory results in money spent, but no return on that money. Inventory on shelf is money that cannot be invested in other areas of the organization. As a purchasing professional, always make sure the reason for the purchase can be justified. Otherwise, the company's executives may not see the purchasing department as an asset to the organization, but rather a department that spends money and adds no real benefit. Shelf life and material spoilage always have to be considered when determining how to replenish inventory. If the product has a limited shelf life, the purchasing professional wants to understand how long the shelf life is for the product. Don't ever assume that a product does not have a shelf life. Most chemicals, adhesives, and liquids have an expiration date. If the purchasing professional purchases products XYZ in 25-piece case quantities because it is cheaper and it takes the organization 3 to 5 years to consume that product, however, the product's shelf life is only 2 years, then that is not a good purchase and is wasteful of the organization's monetary resources. As a purchasing professional, there are two major types of replenishment processes that you must be familiar with. They are push-driven and pull-driven. The push-driven process focuses on purchasing from a forecasted demand. The pull-driven process focuses on purchasing based on customer orders. One of these processes will be used by an organization to prevent scenarios like the one previously discussed. Organizations can choose to use both processes simultaneously as well. Push-driven systems are usually more prevalent when demand is well known and there is not much fluctuation in the demand. This system is also more popular when purchasing dictates the replenishment quantities in the organization. A pull-driven system is usually found when the demand is less stable and unpredictable. In a pull-driven system, ideally the lead times are going to be short and the suppliers are located near the buyer's operation. In a pull-driven system, the purchase orders may be small in quantity, but more frequent in number, therefore the costs are more difficult to control. In order to reduce the risk of increasing costs, the purchasing professional can follow certain guidelines. First of all, communicate with the supplier. If the supplier is aware that your quantities may be small but more frequent, they will be inclined to agree upon a fixed price for their product for a set period of time, quarterly, every 6 months, or annually. Also, the purchasing professional can automate the purchase order generation. For example, if the supplier agrees on a fixed price, it is usually for a certain quantity. Let's say the agreement is for 75 widgets purchased during a period of January 1st, 2000XX until December 31st, 2000XX. And then a blanket order can be issued to the supplier for releases as you need them. In this situation, however, the purchasing professional has to be careful not to overbuy because the organization will be stuck with the inventory that is not being consumed. Another technique that can be used to better manage a pull-driven system is vendor-managed inventory. That is, your supplier will have their inventory at your facility and actually manage the inventory, only billing your company as the product is consumed. This means the production department should always have the material when needed, and there should never be any lost production time for lack of inventory on hand. Unlike the pull-driven system, the push-driven environment is based on forecast, not demand. The order quantities are sometimes determined according to past demands and trends. Usually there is interaction between purchasing department and the sales department, where sales has gotten forecasted order quantities from customers. The purchase orders are placed with the suppliers based on this information. Unlike the pull system, The purchase orders are larger, and the quantity purchased is determined by the inventory carrying cost and the procurement cost. In a push system, the purchasing professional works with a large group of suppliers, maintaining backup suppliers for a lot of parts to ensure that there's always someone to supply the part for your organization. The suppliers can be located locally or internationally. Long lead time is acceptable due to the planning that goes into purchasing for a push-driven system. A purchasing professional has to be able to recognize which system is most suited for their organization, or which system they are working within, if joining an already established purchasing organization. If the purchasing professional can recognize the type of replenishment system they are working with, then it is easier to analyze the current system and implement improvements when necessary. There are certain characteristics that will be present in a pull system versus a push system. There are some organizations that will have both systems running simultaneously. In this case, the purchasing professional has to understand which parts fall within which system. It is important to know how to handle purchasing the parts individually and make fit successfully into the system as a whole. In a pull-driven system, the relationship between the purchasing organization and the supplier is very close. There has to be more of a partnership than a buyer-supplier relationship. There is heavy dependence on the supplier for quick response from the time of order until the time of delivery. In a push system, there is a large supplier base present. A purchasing professional may have 2 or more suppliers for one part. There are multiple suppliers to prevent the change of stock outs, or if the supplier for some reason cannot handle an increase in demand, there is another supplier that can produce the same product. In a pull-driven system, purchase orders are continuously issued and interaction with the supplier is often. A buyer may issue multiple purchase orders to the same supplier for the same item 2 to 3 times a month, maybe more due to customer demand. In a push system interaction with the supplier, there may be as little as once or twice per year, especially if it is a situation where there is only one purchase order issued to cover a year of usage. In a push-driven system, purchasing will be buying material to support production demand, not necessarily customer demand. What this means is product to be built will be put into stock to fulfill a customer order when it is received. In a pull-driven system, however, purchasing is buying to fulfill an order that has been received. You will also see a pull-driven system in an environment where the finished product is customized to meet specific customer specifications. There are other inventory replenishment systems that are used from time to time. These other systems are usually found in conjunction with the push or pull system. These systems are reorder point replenishment, schedule-driven replenishment, and just-in-time replenishment. In a reorder point replenishment system, there is some required work on the front end of implementing the system. A predetermined on-hand inventory is determined along with a quantity that is considered to be the lowest possible level to have on hand. When the lowest level is reached, there is a purchase order issued to get the inventory quantity back up to the predetermined on-hand level. This type of replenishment system is sometimes automated, where the system creates a purchase order automatically based on the inventory level shown in the system. The only human interaction is approval and transmitting to the supplier's location. A schedule-driven replenishment system involves a purchasing professional issuing a purchase order with a predetermined and agreed-upon schedule. The product or material is shipped from the supplier's location according to the schedule listed on the purchase order. This is a time saver, but it does pose some potential downfalls. If the schedule changes, the purchasing professional has to change the original schedule shown on the purchase order. Just-in-time replenishment is just as it sounds. The purchase order is issued to the supplier to get product to the manufacturing floor just in time to be incorporated into the product. The purchasing professional has to closely manage the progress of this product because if the shipment is late, the production line could come to a halt. Most companies use some form of inventory replenishment system. The purchasing professional must be aware of the various systems in order to know which system will work best for the purchasing department within the organization. The push and pull requirement systems are probably the most familiar. However, there are others that are used. The push and pull system can be used individually or simultaneously. The other systems that can be used are the reorder point, the schedule driven, and the just-in-time replenishment systems. These, like the others mentioned, can exist solo or together with other replenishment systems. Thank you once again for your time and attention, and this is businesstraining.com, where you can earn a master's level qualification to make more money.